Do you know what it feels like to be replaced while you're still standing right there? I'm Evelyn Carter, 66 years old, and I thought Mother's Day would be simple this year. Maybe a phone call, maybe brunch, maybe the kind of warm laugh you can keep like a quilt on a cold night. I had even wrapped a little box myself, the kind of careful wrapping you do when you want someone to feel loved before they even open it. I didn't have much to give. My budget is tight these days, the kind of tight where you notice every gallon of gas and every price tag at the grocery store. But I had written a card with my best pen and my best heart. That morning my phone buzzed. I sat down at my kitchen table, coffee cooling beside me, and I smiled before I even looked. Then I read it. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. That was it. No exclamation point. No I love you. No can I see you today? Just a greeting like I was a distant relative she remembered out of obligation. I stared at those 4 words until they felt like they were taking up the whole screen. I told myself not to be dramatic. People get busy. People forget. But a mother knows the difference between busy and indifferent. An hour later, my neighbor Marlene texted me a link. One of those quick little, oh my gosh messages that makes your stomach drop before you even click. It was my daughter Brooke's social media post. There she was, dressed up, hair perfect, smiling like a commercial. And standing beside her, beaming like she'd just won the lottery, was Brooke's mother-in-law, Linda Sutton. The caption was syrupy sweet. To the woman who's always been there for me. Happy Mother's Day. And then I saw the photos. A ring big, bright, unmistakably expensive, sparkling on Linda's hand. And another shot of a cruise confirmation, glossy and celebratory. Like they were announcing a second honeymoon. Marlene added one line. Did you know about this? They're saying it was $20,000. $20,000. I did the math without meaning to. That was more than my entire year of car payments. More than I'd spent on groceries in months. More than the emergency fund I'd been trying to rebuild since the roof leak last winter. I felt my face go hot then cold. Clicked again, hoping I'd misunderstood. But there was Brooke hugging Linda, and Linda was holding her hand up so the ring caught the light, like the light was the point. I sat there in my quiet kitchen with my little wrapped box and my plain coffee, and I realized something sharper than jealousy was cutting through me. This wasn't about gifts. This was about priorities. And if Brooke had enough to buy a $20,000 ring and a cruise for someone else, then why did she treat her own mother like an afterthought? I didn't cry. Not yet. I just set my phone down, smoothed the edges of the card I'd written, and listened to the silence in my house like it was trying to warn me. After I set my phone down, I stared at that little box like it belonged to someone else. It was not even fancy, just a scarf I had found on sale, soft and navy blue, because Brooke once said navy looked good on me. I had wrapped it in paper with tiny daisies, taped the corners neatly, and tied a ribbon I saved from last Christmas. It should have felt sweet. Instead it felt small, like my love had been measured and found inconvenient. I took a slow breath and reminded myself of the truth I rarely said out loud. I live a careful life. I have to. Since my husband passed, I have done the math on everything. I know what my social security check can cover, what my savings can handle, and what surprises I cannot afford. I keep the thermostat lower than I like in winter and higher than I like in summer. I plan my errands so I do not waste gas. I buy store brand when I can and wait for coupons when I cannot. I do not complain because I am not helpless, and because pride is sometimes the only luxury left. Brooke knows all of that. She has seen me patch a leaky sink with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial. She has watched me carry my own groceries one bag at a time, because I refuse to ask for help unless I truly need it. I have never demanded anything from her. Not money, not gifts, not attention. I have only asked for time, and even that I asked gently like it was optional. When Brooke got married, I tried so hard to be the kind of mother who does not hover. I told myself she is building a new family, and I should not act like I am in competition. I sent meals after she moved into her new house. I mailed little cards on anniversaries. I learned her schedule and waited for her to call when she had a spare minute. But over the last year those minutes got rarer. If I called, it went to voicemail. If I texted, I got short replies. When I suggested meeting for coffee, she said she would check her calendar, and then the calendar somehow stayed full. I blamed myself at first. I wondered if I said something wrong or if I had that tone older women get accused of having, the one that sounds like criticism even when you are trying to be helpful. I replayed conversations in my mind like a song stuck on repeat. But looking at that ring on Linda's hand, I felt something shift. Brooke did not forget how to show love. She was practicing it proudly in public. She just was not practicing it with me. And the hardest part was realizing that my daughter had chosen to make that difference loud enough for the whole world to see. The next day I tried to convince myself to let it go, the way older women are expected to swallow disappointment like it is good manners. I washed dishes that were already clean. I folded towels that did not need folding. I even watered my porch plants twice. Like extra care could make something bloom inside me. Then my phone rang, and for one hopeful second I thought it might be Brooke. It was my sister Janice, with that tone she gets when she is trying to be gentle but cannot hide her anger. She asked if I was all right. I said I was fine because I always say I am fine. She paused, then told me she had seen the post too. Apparently half the family had. I could feel embarrassment creep up my neck. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because being publicly overlooked makes you feel exposed. Janice wanted to call Brooke and give her a piece of her mind. I told her not to. I said it would only make things worse. That was the truth. But it was also my habit, protecting Brooke even when she was the one causing the harm. After I hung up, I sat down and finally let myself remember the last time I saw Brooke in person. It was a family dinner about a month ago at a chain restaurant off the highway, the kind with bright menus and booths that squeak when you slide in. Brooke arrived late carrying a big gift bag I assumed was for me, because she had mentioned she had something to drop off. But she handed it straight to Linda, who had come along, and said, loud enough for the server to hear, that she could not wait to spoil her today. Linda laughed and called Brooke her sweet girl. I smiled the way you do when you do not want anyone to notice your heart sinking. Brooke did not look at me much that night. When she did, it was quick, like checking a box. Linda talked the most, telling stories about how Brooke called her for advice, and how they had a standing lunch date every Saturday. Brooke nodded and touched Linda's arm affectionately, the way I used to imagine she might touch mine someday when I got older. When I mentioned my roof leak, not even asking for help, just making conversation, Brooke said she was sorry, then immediately changed the subject to cruise options and how Linda deserved something special. It was small things like that, stitched together until the pattern became impossible to ignore. At the end of that dinner, Brooke hugged Linda longer than she hugged me. Then, as she grabbed her purse, she said, almost casually, that she needed to handle some paperwork soon and asked if I still had the folder with my important documents. I remember blinking, confused, and saying yes, somewhere in the hall closet. She smiled and said, good, we will talk later. Later never came. Sitting alone in my living room now, I replayed that moment and felt my stomach tighten. The ring and the cruise were not just about love. They were about resources. And suddenly, I had a question I could not stop hearing in my own head. Why was my daughter so interested in my papers while she was so indifferent to my heart? That night I did not sleep much. It was not the kind of insomnia that comes from too much coffee or a noisy neighborhood. It was the kind that comes when your mind keeps circling one sharp point, like a tooth you cannot stop touching with your tongue. Brooke's words from that dinner kept replaying. The folder with my important documents. At 2 a.m, I got up and walked down the hallway in my socks, careful not to trip over the little rug I have had since the 80s. I opened the closet and pulled out the plastic bin where I keep what I call my life in paper form. Birth certificates, insurance policies, tax returns, the deed to the house, bank statements, things you never think about until you have to. I sat on the floor and lifted each file like it weighed more than paper should. Most of it was boring and familiar. But as I flipped through, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. There was a newer envelope tucked behind my old mortgage paperwork, the kind of envelope I do not usually save. I did not remember putting it there. It had a return address from my bank and a date from just a few weeks ago. I opened it with my thumbnail and found a confirmation letter for an automatic transfer setup. Not a huge amount, but enough to matter to someone like me, $250 scheduled monthly. My name was on the account, but the destination information was not a bill I recognized. There was a routing number and an account ending in digits I did not know. My first reaction was confusion. My second was shame, like I should have caught this earlier. I do not splurge. I do not set up automatic transfers unless I know exactly why. I grabbed my reading glasses and looked again, slower. The letter listed a contact email for notifications, and it was not mine. It was a Gmail address that looked familiar in a way that made my stomach turn. It was Brooke's. I sat there on the hallway floor, holding that letter, and for a moment I could hear my own heartbeat louder than the house. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe Brooke had helped me once when my computer was acting up. Maybe she set something up and forgot to remove her email. But then another detail jumped out. The transfer was labeled as a membership payment, like it was funding a service or a perk. A membership I had never asked for. I thought of the cruise confirmation in those photos, the glossy celebration. The way Linda's hand had been positioned just right to show off that ring. $250 a month does not buy a $20,000 ring overnight. But it can cover deposits, booking fees, upgrades, little luxuries that add up when someone else is not watching. My hands started to shake. Not with rage, but with that cold realization that something had been happening around me without my permission. I put every paper back in its place, slid the bin into the closet, and closed the door softly. Then I stood in the dark hallway and made myself a promise I had never needed before. I was going to find out exactly what my daughter had been doing, and I was not going to ask her first. In the morning I moved through my routine like nothing had changed, because I needed my mind to stay steady. I made oatmeal, rinsed my bowl, and wrote a short list on a yellow notepad the way my late husband used to when he was fixing something around the house. What is the transfer? Who set it up? Where does it go? I did not call Brooke. If I called her, she would have a head start. Instead, I drove to my bank branch right after lunch, the same one I have used for years, the one where the lobby smells faintly like carpet cleaner and peppermint. I parked, sat in my car for a moment, and reminded myself that being calm is not the same as being weak. Inside, I asked for a private desk, not the teller line. I told the banker, a young man named Aaron, that I had questions about an automatic transfer, and I needed a printout of recent activity. My voice surprised me. It did not shake. It sounded like a woman who pays her bills on time and expects clarity in return. Aaron pulled up my account and frowned slightly, the professional kind of frown that says he has seen this before. He confirmed the transfer had been set up online. He pointed to the notification email on file, and there it was again, not mine. I asked when it was added. He gave me a date. I felt my stomach drop because I knew exactly what happened around that time. Brooke had come over to help me reset my laptop after it froze during tax season. She had sat at my kitchen table, clicked through screens quickly, and told me not to worry, she would handle it. I had trusted her because she was my daughter, and because it is easier to accept help than to admit you feel overwhelmed. I asked Aaron for the destination bank information. He said he could give me the last 4 digits in the institution. He also showed me the transfer description, and it matched what I had seen, membership payment. I asked him if the transfer could be canceled immediately. He said yes. I told him to cancel it now. Then I asked for something else. Any device history or login notes on the setup, anything that showed where it came from. Aaron explained what he could and could not provide, but he offered to print the audit details the bank keeps for disputes. I nodded and asked him to do it. My hand stayed folded in my lap while the printer hummed. On the drive home, I did not play music. I listened to the quiet and thought about Linda's ring catching the light, about Brooke's smile in those photos, about how easily my money could disappear in small, polite amounts if I did not look closely. When I got home, I laid the papers on my kitchen table like evidence, because that is what they were. And then I did one more thing that felt both painful and necessary. I logged into my email, searched for any messages from my bank, and started reading everything I had ignored, line by line, determined to see the whole pattern, not just one loose thread. By late afternoon, my kitchen table looked like a quiet storm had passed through. I had my bank printouts on one side, my notepad in the middle, and my laptop open with my email search results on the other. I typed the same words again and again, narrowing in on anything that looked official. Transfer, confirmation, subscription, update, notification. At first it was nothing but routine messages I had never bothered to read because they felt like background noise. Then I found a thread from 3 months ago titled, "Welcome to your membership." It was sent to an email address I did not recognize, but my name was in the greeting. The address was a slight variation of my name, like someone had created it to look legitimate. Evelyn Carter Support at Gmail. My mouth went dry. I clicked deeper and found the next message. Payment received. Another. Your benefits have been activated. The company name was unfamiliar, but the wording was clear. This was not a mistake. This was a paid program set up in my name, running quietly month after month. I opened the attached invoice and there it was, plain as day. A monthly charge that matched the $250, plus occasional add-ons that were smaller but frequent, like someone ordering upgrades in careful little bites. I printed it, then checked the dates and compared them to my bank statements. Every charge lined up. The pattern was so neat it almost looked respectable, like the kind of budgeting I pride myself on. Except it was not mine. I kept digging because once you see one lie, you start wondering how many more are sitting underneath it. In the same week the membership began, there were flight-related charges on a separate card I rarely use, the one Brooke insisted I keep for emergencies. The amounts were not huge, but they were specific. Baggage fees, seat selection, trip protection. That is the kind of spending that only happens when someone is planning a vacation. I thought about the cruise Brooke posted, and suddenly the pieces started to connect in a way that made my hands feel cold. This membership was not a gift for Linda. It was a pipeline, a quiet little channel moving money out of my life and into theirs without leaving a dramatic footprint. I sat back and stared at the screen until my eyes stung. Part of me wanted to believe Brooke had done it for a good reason, that she meant to pay it back, that it was temporary. But then I remembered her face in those photos, the way she held her head high, the way she celebrated someone else with my name still attached to the bill. I clicked one more time and found a message labeled account changes confirmed, and there was the kicker. It listed a phone number for verification. It was not mine. It was Brooke's. In that moment the pain shifted into something sharper and clearer. This was not thoughtlessness. This was control. And if Brooke felt comfortable doing this now, it meant she believed I either would not notice or would not fight back if I did. The next morning I did not call Brooke, and I did not confront her with tears. I made a plan the way you do when the stakes are high and emotions only get in the way. First, I made copies of everything. The bank audit page showing the email change, the transfer confirmation, the invoices with my name, and the verification phone number. I slid the originals back into a folder and wrote one word on the tab in black marker. Proof. Then I changed every password I had, starting with my email, because if someone controls your email, they can reset everything else. I created new security questions that Brooke could not guess, and I wrote the answers in a notebook I keep in a drawer that only I touch. After that, I called my bank again, this time not to ask but to instruct. I removed every save device and told them to add a note that no changes were to be made over the phone, unless I was physically present with identification. The banker did not argue. He sounded relieved, like he was glad to hear a customer take her own power back. Next, I called the membership company, and I kept my voice steady while I asked for the account cancellation in writing. When the representative asked why, I said, because it was opened without my consent. There was a pause on the line, the kind that makes you realize certain words carry weight. I requested an email record of all payments and the method used to enroll. I did not accuse Brooke by name. I did not have to. Facts do not need extra decoration. Then I did something I had been avoiding for years. I contacted an attorney. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted protection. A kind receptionist scheduled me for a consultation, and I brought my folder like I was bringing my own case file. The attorney, a woman about my age named Susan, listened without interrupting. She asked calm questions, the sort that separate feelings from evidence. She told me what my options were: to secure my accounts, revoke any permissions, and document the misuse properly. She also reminded me that I had the right to decide who handled my affairs, now and in the future, and that love did not require leaving doors unlocked. When I left her office, I felt strangely lighter, like I had been holding my breath for months without realizing it. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A message from Brooke popped up. Hey Mom, are you free this weekend? We are doing a little brunch for Mother's Day since it got busy. It was cheerful, casual, almost sweet. And for the first time, I did not read it as an invitation. I read it as a setup. I stared at the screen, then typed back 3 words that sounded polite but meant something else entirely. Yes, I am. Brooke picked a trendy brunch place on the nicer side of town, the kind with white subway tile, overpriced coffee, and little vases of flowers that try hard to look effortless. I arrived 10 minutes early on purpose, because I wanted to feel the room before I stepped into it. I wore a simple blouse and my cardigan, nothing dramatic, just clean and put together. The way a woman looks when she is not asking for anything. In my purse I carried a plain manila folder. No labels. No tabs. Just paper that told the truth. When Brooke walked in she looked relieved, like my yes from the text meant her plan was still on track. She hugged me quickly, then pulled back and smiled with that bright, public face she uses when she wants everything to seem fine. Behind her came Linda Sutton, dressed like she was headed to a photo shoot. The ring was on full display, catching the light every time she moved her hand. Brooke introduced Linda like she was the guest of honor, and Linda kissed the air near my cheek and said, "Happy Mother's Day, Evelyn," in a voice that sounded friendly but landed like a reminder of who was winning. We sat at a large table by the window. Brooke's husband was there, and a couple of their friends I barely knew, which told me immediately this was not just for me. This was a stage. Brooke ordered mimosas for everyone. I asked for iced tea. Linda laughed and said she could never skip the bubbles on a celebration day. Brooke grinned and said, "Mom is being good." Being good. Like I was a child who needed praise for behaving. They chatted about the cruise like it was a trophy. Linda described the ocean view, the specialty dinners, the excursions, and Brooke kept nodding, glowing with pride. I listened quietly, letting them talk themselves comfortable. Then Brooke slid a small envelope across the table toward me with one hand while her other hand stayed wrapped around her coffee like she needed something warm to hold. "We wanted to do something special for you too," she said. The envelope was thin. I did not open it right away. I looked at Brooke and asked softly, "Before I open this, can I ask you something?" Her smile held but her eyes sharpened. "Sure," she said, still sweet. I reached into my purse and placed my manila folder on the table, right beside the menu. It made a quiet thud, not loud, but somehow everyone noticed. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse. I simply said, "When did you add your email address and phone number to my bank account?" The table went still in a way that felt almost physical. Linda's hand froze mid-gesture, the ring flashing once like a warning. Brooke blinked then laughed too quickly. "What are you talking about?" she said. I opened the folder and slid one page forward, just enough for Brooke to see the printed line with her Gmail address on it. Her face changed in a single breath. And in that moment I knew I had not imagined any of it. Brooke's laugh died in her throat, and for a second all she could do was stare at the paper like it was written in a language she had never seen before. Her husband shifted in his seat, eyes darting between us, suddenly interested in the table salt and anything else that was not my face. Linda's smile stayed on but it tightened at the corners, the way a curtain looks right before it drops. I kept my voice level because I had learned something over the last week. Calm makes liars panic. "This is not a misunderstanding," I said, sliding the next page forward. "The transfer confirmation with the dates and amounts. $250 a month. In my name. With your email address. With your phone number. And invoices for a membership I never signed up for." Brooke opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Mom, I was just helping you," she said. "You forget things sometimes." That sentence would have hurt more if I had not already prepared for it. I did not argue about my memory. I did not defend my age. I simply looked at her and said, "Helping does not require hiding." Linda let out a soft little sound, half scoff, half sigh, like she could not believe this was happening in public. "Evelyn, do not be dramatic," she said, and raised her ring hand as if it could silence me. "Brooke and I are close. That is all this is." I turned my eyes to Linda for the first time and held them there. "Close is a relationship," I said. "This is a financial trail." Brooke's husband finally spoke, low and uneasy. "Brooke, what did you do?" Brooke's cheeks flushed bright pink and she swallowed hard. Then in a smaller voice she admitted she had set it up temporarily, because things were tight, and she knew I would not miss it. She said she planned to pay it back after the cruise. She said she did not want to worry me. Every excuse sounded like a version of the same truth. She had decided my consent was optional. I took a slow sip of my iced tea and let the silence do the work. Then I said, "I canceled it. I removed your access. I documented everything. And I spoke with an attorney." Brooke's eyes widened, not with remorse, but with fear of consequences. Linda's posture stiffened as if she realized the gift she wore might come with strings that snapped back. Brooke reached for my hand finally, but I pulled my purse closer instead. "I am still your mother. I told her steady and clear. But I am not your resource. I pushed the thin envelope she had given me back across the table unopened. Whatever that is, keep it, I said. What I want is respect. And honesty. If you want to rebuild this, you start by telling the truth without being caught. I stood, placed a few bills on the table for my tea, and looked at my daughter one last time. I hope one day you understand that a mother's love is not a blank check, I said. Outside, the sun was warm on my face. I walked to my car with my shoulders back, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something I had forgotten I deserved. Peace, earned by setting a boundary and choosing myself.